Friday, the 2nd of September. An exciting day for many. Certainly for me, Megadeth's new album's coming out, Blind Guardian's new album's coming out. What could there be to worry about? It'll be the weekend. I can have some beers at the pub with some friends, listen to some great music, and also sit down and watch The Rings of Power. That's right, The Rings of Power is out tomorrow, everybody, and the reviews have started to flood in, and they are a little bit mixed for right now, and we'll see what the audience response is like when most people get to see it tomorrow. But I thought this would be a great time to point to an old premium hangout that Carl and John did back in February, titled Why Woke Remakes Are Evil. And we all know why this is, as much as they want to try to paint everybody who has grievances and issues with the depiction of certain characters in The Rings of Power as racist and evil. At the end of the day, what they're doing is they're co-opting a beloved franchise, a beloved story, and turning it into something that its creator never intended. So you should check that out for a bit more detail on those arguments there. But interestingly, I found it funny that in these recent premieres that have been going on, because they've been doing the premieres for the mainstream critics, and they've also had a number of fans go to these premieres for the first few episodes. I think the first 2 episodes of The Rings of Power, it's going to be released, 2 episodes tomorrow, and then 1 weekly from that point onwards, is Jeff Bezos made a few speeches, a few of them. And even in this speech, he admits that his son asked him, please do not F this up. Please do not F this up. Supposedly his son is a big Tolkien fan and knew how important this would be and told him, don't F this up. And I can only say I hope that his son is horrified and distraught at what his father has allowed to happen. I mean, for one, why you would give the keys to this gigantic franchise? I don't remember the names of the showrunners, but do you know anything about the showrunners?
The showrunners on this?
No.
Well, I barely even knew it was happening. I mean, like, it's free.
Oh, so live in ignorance,
it's free
bliss,
on Amazon, and I'm still probably not even going to watch it. I can just click it for nothing, and I'm still weighing up, is it worth it?
Well, I suppose that you feel like you're contributing to the greater tide of evil in the world watching a show like this. Certainly I would. I
think I did see a bit of one of our episodes said that they were like woke people with no experience or something.
Yes, the 2 people behind it have, I think, uncredited writing credits, contradictory as that sounds, on a few random shows here and there, but they've never been in charge of a show, never been in charge of a major production, never directed a film, only, like I say, done these uncredited bits of writing here and there. So why Jeff Bezos and Amazon as a whole felt the need to hand these people the keys to the Lord of the Rings and also $1 billion to make the whole thing, which has so obviously shown itself in the production design and the costumes and hasn't been laundered anywhere, I don't understand. I don't understand. I'm starting to think this might be one big money laundering scheme.
Yeah, well, I'm one of these people. I insist there's 3 Star Wars films. I've said it before on here. 1
You're
Matrix
absolutely
film.
Correct.
Can't remember exactly how many Lord of the Rings films, but the Peter Jackson ones, I'm counting. I've read the books. I'm not counting this.
I wouldn't count The Hobbit.
Really, I'm gonna be quite generous. I mean, it's a bit. They didn't need to make it into 3, but it wasn't that bad.
I would have been interested to see Del Toro's, because Guillermo del Toro was originally attached to it and he was going to make it 2 films. So I would have been interested to see that, but I didn't need it to be like 3 hour long films. 1
would have been fine for me, but yeah, but I'm going to be generous there, but I'm not counting this in advance because it's got Lenny Henry in it. That's already
and that's immediately diminished your opinion of it.
And I bet it doesn't feature Tom Bombadil. I mean, does it?
Nothing ever features Tom Bombadil.
Because that's all I want to see. Tom Bombadil is such an amazing character. I read the books when I was 18. I'm now very old, but the other day I still watched a YouTube video called "Who is Tom Bombadil?"
Nobody knows.
Minutes.
There's people are still trying to figure it out.
Isn't that amazing? That's a truly great character.
It is. When I read the books when I was like 15, 16 years old, I just remember getting to the Tom Bombadil parts and having no idea what was going on. They're in the woods, they're wandering about. Some guy just shows up and gives them food.
He starts singing and stuff. Yeah, it's
like, I know they look like children, but...
Yeah, what people are saying is he Tolkien, but the video concludes he's kind of just Tom Bombadil.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be any more...
spoiler there.
It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. But yes, Bezos had said earlier this month that the project, which will likely get big viewership numbers, and sadly that is probably true, people are going to watch this just because it's got the Lord of the Rings name attached to it, it hopes to do justice to Tolkien's work. Which it absolutely will not, because let's be honest here, if Tolkien was still alive, the people like Jeff Bezos, the people who Jeff Bezos has in charge of the show, people like Lenny Henry, would be calling him a fascist.
Yeah.
They would be calling him a fascist. They don't care about his work. They care about co-opting the aesthetic of it because it makes money and is important to people, and they want to smash everything that is important to you.
Yeah, it's a very different world, isn't it? The literary world of Tolkien, his Catholic background, you know, the world of the literary side of what he created versus...
Are you aware of the private letters that he sent to friends?
No.
Because in those private letters, he made it very clear that he was basically just one step away from being a member of Ancapistan, where he said that if he would prefer to have people shot who mentioned the benefits of the state to him.
Really?
Yeah, very interesting.
Did you see that tweet the other day that anyone in a Tolkien book who doesn't like smoking is seen as a villain?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
that makes sense.
Smoking is a trait of villainy, apparently in Lewis and in Tolkien.
I mean, every single one of the good guys like smokes pipe weed. Yeah, that makes sense actually.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a large gulf between the literary Catholic Tolkien and some cosplaying fans queuing to watch some rubbish on Amazon.
You obviously haven't seen some of the promos that were released earlier this year, but they had these insufferable Gen Z Zoomer types with all of their ridiculous fashion, silly earrings and stupid haircuts going like, oh my God, I'm so happy. It's so interesting and cool to see queer representation and this and that representation. And just like, you don't care. You don't care about what it is that they're doing to this show because you just want something that will reflect your own values back at you.
Shouldn't there be a Tolkien estate that like steps in?
Well, there was greatest son ever, Christopher Tolkien, who seemed to have been keeping the reins pretty tight on it for a long time, who then died. And as soon as that happened, you know, they came straight in. The grave robbers arrived very quickly.
It was like when Alex Ferguson left Man United. Wrong reference for this podcast.
I don't watch football, man.
You're from that area and you still don't know what I just said. But anyway, I don't want to derail your thing.
No, it's all right. But one of the most amusing things that came out of this was these tweets showing some screenshots of Reddit posts from people who'd won the tickets to go to the premieres where they'd just been herded around. They've been herded around like cattle. Rings of power fans were made to stand in a pen for hours without seats and told to cheer on command for cameras. And if you click on some of these images, John, actually no, if you go to the next one where it just goes straight into this tweet, click on the image. Here's an artist's interpretation of what was going on. Jeff Bezos, Pepe there, feeling sad for his soy brethren. They're all there clapping along with the applause. And just go to the next one so we can see these Reddit posts explaining the situation where they say, oh, the premiere has been a disappointment. Anyone sad they can't make it, you're missing nothing. We got crammed into cramped pens, being asked to cheer on cue with no speakers, so we can't even hear the audio and have no idea what's happening. We can barely hear anyone, and it's hot, and barely any water has been handed out. We aren't allowed to leave, or we won't be able to watch the screening. Several people have had to sit down near the back of our pen where the cameras can't see them. We've been trapped here for 2.5 hours now, and now it's starting to rain. So, you know, Amazon showing all of the care that they have for all of the people who make up their viewership base and the people who pay their bills. But we can see also here, these little updates down here. We've been released. We survived. Godspeed, fans. Now let's enjoy the show. More than worth the perils. It was magnificent. A few people are asking for reviews of spoilers, but I'll have to wait. I don't want to spoil it for everybody. So they get treated like crap, pushed about, told to clap, used as props for this promotional ceremony, which is kind of to be expected. But then the second they get in to see it, it's like, oh, it was magnificent. I clapped when I saw elves. It was amazing.
Yeah, they're all wet and dehydrated.
Yeah.
I loved it. Imagine what Tolkien would think of fan pens. He fought in a world war. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, how far we've come.
Tolkien's like, oh, I should put my gun down and surrendered if this was what it was leading to. Good God. And then the next one was another person complaining. No, if you go to the next image along, thank you. Enjoyed the first 2 episodes, but that premiere was an awful experience. After winning 2 tickets to the world premiere, I expected to go to a red carpet event, see the cast, hear their interviews, and get to share a large room with the creatives behind the show. And that's where you went wrong expecting that. In reality, I was used as a human prop, made to stand and cheer on people I didn't know without being able to hear a damn word they were saying for 3 damn hours with no seats. Then going into a screen with the only fellow competition winners. There was a pointless applause at the end as there was no one that worked on the show there to hear the applause. And to be fair, for a Reddit commenter, this person's top comment here says, if you go to a promotional event, don't be terribly surprised if you're part of the promotion. Actually has a pretty good point here, but once again, these people not getting great great treatment, but the second they see it, oh, I clapped, I saw the thing, it broke new ground, Nick. It had elves fighting on screens with bows and arrows. It was incredible. It was amazing. It did everything I wanted. You know,
all I've seen is that emo-looking Sauron who looks like emo Eminem.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard.
Have you watched it yet? Are you waiting for it to come out? Have you got special? Have you found a way to?
Well,
watch?
have I got special access? Well, I've got Bezos in my DMs right now. He's asking how I was doing, and it's like, I don't know. No, I've not watched it, and I don't want to watch it, but I have a feeling I'm probably going to have to watch it.
Yeah.
Because Carl's going to watch it, and he'll want someone to talk to about it, and nobody else is willing. So
it's going to be work.
I will have. Yeah, it will be
it's like
work.
me with the cost of living crisis. I keep having to cover on GB News. You're like, oh, I've got to watch The Rings of whatever.
And then
do you love the books and the original films?
I love the original films. The books I've mentioned to you earlier. I read them. I enjoyed them, but the actual prose of the trilogy, and this might change if I go back to revisit it anytime soon. The prose of The Hobbit was fine, really engaging, but the prose of the actual trilogy, Fellowship through to Return of the King, was quite difficult to get through.
Yeah, stylistically, it's not the best. It's a bit like Ayn Rand or something. It's like the ideas are there, but stylistically, so in Tolkien, the story is great, the characters are great, the whole world is great. The actual prose is a little stodgy. I think we can agree on that. I think that's okay, isn't it?
I think that's a pretty common opinion.
We'll get some hate in the comments for that, but
yeah, feel free to leave a comment telling me how wrong I am. And to be honest, I'll probably agree with you because I've not read them in years. So, but there were some more Reddit posts on the Lord of the Rings on Prime that I thought were funny because there were people just like who've been to the premiere who weren't quite as enthusiastic. They didn't clap quite as hard. They were the first ones to stop clapping, and they say there were things I really enjoyed, but overall I found the pacing and the immediate instruction quite flawed. And for me, the Harfoots and Elrond Durin and Celebrimbor, I'm sorry, I'm not a Tolkien buff, so if I'm pronouncing these names wrong, if these are even names from the books, Celebrimbor were the most enjoyable to watch, and Galadriel's arc through the first episode was also enjoyable. I'm hoping things become more concise, yada yada, and then he ends with, let me know if you have any questions, and please don't be mad at me for not loving it. I really wanted to. So he's terrified because he knows any dissent from the consensus opinion will get him dogpiled and eaten alive by the Reddit with all of the completely independent thinkers and individuals who occupy Reddit, who want everybody to know that they have big brain opinions, might disagree with him on this. And there was another one saying feeling underwhelmed, where he explained that I think I'm underwhelmed, and that's pretty sad. It's only 2 episodes. But I don't think it's launched the show off well. I mean, I don't understand why anybody thought it was going to launch well, but fair play. But this is just the general fan reaction. So let's go over to the mainstream reviews, the critics' reviews, the reviews from the people who, really matter. And let's start off with the bad reviews, because the bad reviews aren't as much of a proportion as I was expecting them to be. I was expecting a few publications, although maybe that'll all come tomorrow when it's released to the general public, and people like Nerdrotic and other such people on YouTube will be able to really sink their teeth into this. But this review from Christopher Stevens that states the Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, is so staggeringly bad it's hilarious. Everything about it is ill-judged to a spectacular extreme. Cliché-ridden script, dire acting, leaden pace, inconsistency and confusion as it lurches between styles. Where do we start? So it's not looking good. Not looking good so far. And there's no doubt we can see the budget because, once again, they handed 2 unknown guys $1 billion to make this show. For some reason, that's more than some third world countries' entire GDP. Here you go, 2 guys who knows what you're capable of. And they say, no doubt we can see the budget. It casts a throbbing glow over the screen like a chest. That's a very strange turn of phrase right there. Ultra high definition computer graphics paint ivory cities in mountain passes and conjure gigantic monsters in palaces of dark magic. And here, I don't think anybody would be surprised that it looks good. Give 2 people $1 billion and access to an army of CGI artists, and you're probably going to be able to, crap out something that looks passable.
Yeah. Although, call me a boomer, I've still never seen any CGI that's better than just Star Wars puppets.
Oh, in the 1970s and 80s. Yeah,
Jabba the Hutt, they still look better. When they tried to redo Jabba the Hutt, and CGI is still not better than puppets.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, recently I had to watch Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League for a discussion that I had with Connor that's going to be coming out soon. And the CGI in that looked terrible. It looked terrible. And then you go back to, say, 1979, and you've got a film like Alien, Ridley Scott's original, that still holds up. Even the matte paintings and the background and some of the more cheap-looking special effects, the way they use them makes it hold up over 40 years later. Whereas, lots of CGI dates and ages very, very quickly. Unless you're Terminator 2. Terminator 2 actually managed to skirt that line quite well. But magnificent visuals and are meaningless if nobody knows who the audience is meant to be. And it's impossible to guess whether the Rings of Power is meant for children, hardcore fans, or general viewers, because it fails them all. No surprise. Led by Lenny Henry as Sadok, the Harfoots talk in a jumble of Jamaican, Irish, and Somerset accents. This is exactly what Tolkien wanted. Can you feel Tolkien's vision emanating from this? Yeah.
The Englishness and Catholicism of the original story.
Yeah, no. The Jamaicanness, I think you must have mistaken it. They're lovable and funny in a slapstick way. Poppy Proudfellow trips on an expedition to scrump blackberries and falls flat in a puddle. When she lifts her muddy face to the camera, like Oliver Hardy, she sighs, enchanting. Halffootland is cute, until old Mr. Brandyfoot slips and snaps his leg with a crack that would make the cast of Casualty wince. So it sounds, judging just by this review, like there might be some tonal issues.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
The only thing I didn't like in the Lord of the Rings films was the comic relief, actually. When like Gimli says something and the whole cinema laughs and you're like, it wasn't that funny.
Yeah,
it's all right, but I don't laugh.
I don't mind it.
Okay.
I don't mind it. I'm not barreling over, laughing, trying to contain my sides, but it's fine. And then there's this other one from Entertainment Weekly, of all places, saying, the Rings of Power review, Amazon's prequel is kind of a catastrophe. Just kind of a catastrophe. Just a little bit of an apocalyptic failure. Just, let's put it in some nicer terms.
Tad horrific.
Yeah, there are ways to do a prequel, and the Rings of Power does them all wrong. It takes 6 or 7 things everybody remembers from the famous movie trilogy, adds a water tank, makes nobody fun, teases mysteries that aren't mysteries, and sends the best character on a pointless detour. The latter is Uber-Elf Galadriel. Do you remember how Galadriel was a fearsome warrior?
No, she was a sort of ethereal, beautiful...
No, she was a warrior.
Oh.
You were just watching it wrong.
Ah.
See, these two nobodies, they were able to interpret Tolkien's true intent. Tolkien just messed up when he wrote the original books. When he was on the typewriter, his fingers just kept slipping and writing this magnificent, ethereal...
She was a boss bitch.
Yes, the
she
whole
was a
time.
Queen in the modern with a QWEEN.
With a KW, yes, double EN. We were all just misinterpreting it the whole time. And she spends the entire premiere telling people to worry about Sauron, and in response, people tell her to not worry about Sauron. Now that's some thrilling character conflict right there. Wouldn't you agree?
That's the problem with prequels, isn't it? Like, some action's going to happen in about 3 movies' time or in a whole series.
Yeah, that was the problem with the Hobbit films as well, is that Jackson felt the need to try and foreshadow Sauron for some reason when it just had nothing to do with the rest of the plot. Oh, now we're going to have a nice side adventure when Gandalf and Saruman have a fight with Shadow Sauron. I didn't care. Nobody cared. Despite all the streaming war headlines, the series is nothing like HBO's Game of Thrones spin-off House of the Dragon, which is a family drama plus dragons. 2 Rings of Power episodes felt more like an 8-hour infinity war with disparate goods coalescing towards a big bad. I don't think Tolkien intended his elves to seem... Oh, yeah, they've got to put it in here because it's Entertainment Weekly. You got to know that they're not saying all of this because they're evil white racists. They're not saying it because they dislike that there's black dwarves and black elves or anything. So they add this nice little token paragraph in here saying, I don't think Tolkien intended his elves to seem a tad fascist, and Jackson didn't worry about casting an ensemble of white British guys and white Americans talking British. Talking British. Is that what we're doing right now? Talking British, mate. Ooh, bottle of water. Rings of Power casually diversifies its fictional races, a casting decision that's thankfully normal in contemporary fantasy. Don't you love watching a fantasy film, but then you find yourself horrified at the lack of diversity on screen? Me neither.
It's also boring. Even the Galadriel thing is obviously like, we need more tough women. But you already had one in Lord of the Rings. You had Eowyn. She was the fighting woman, wasn't she?
Well, interestingly, I think fans of the books complained about that at the time as well, because that's a change from the original novels.
Well, I was going to say, even that was it was a touch feminist for me, but I was like, I'll let you know one.
We'll give you the one. Yeah, because everybody gets one.
Yeah, because there's Joan of Arc, like it does happen occasionally in history, but Galadriel's not a fighter.
Well, I think it's
in that sense.
I think it's because on screen we most people didn't have experience with Eowyn before, so it's like, oh wait, was Eowyn the one who took out the Lich King, the head of the ring wraiths?
Possibly.
Oh yeah. No, she was like that in the books. I think. I thought you meant. Oh my god, I'm showing my lack of knowledge.
Yeah,
here.
I've forgotten the name. They're going to get so much hate for this.
Yeah, we I made a mistake. I've made a mistake a few places here. But anyway, let's move on to the middling reviews, which seem to make up the main body of the reviews. There's quite a few publications all talking about how it's okay. They're all basically saying you can tell that it's got a gigantic budget, but the actual writing is just okay at best. Like this Time article saying it's got tired archetypes, and they say, frankly, here we've got to have, once again, any criticism leveled at this show by a mainstream publication, you need to have that paragraph in there. That paragraph that says, frankly, it is still a relief to see a fantasy show assemble a diverse cast and create a number of powerful female roles. In a world of orcs and anthropomorphic trees, a non-white elf shouldn't raise an eyebrow. Can you feel the smugness? I hate that argument.
Yes.
I hate that argument so much. It's so bollocks. I'm sorry.
Because there are Ents, we should take all white people out of the show. That seems to be what you're saying, right? There are Ents, which are the trees.
It's the same.
Therefore, really, you can't. You've got a talking tree, but you can't have a biromantic asexual in it. That's what
it's so disingenuous as well, because it's the same argument that was used for The Last Jedi, if you remember that, when people were complaining the plot is nonsense, and they go, oh really, space wizards and laser swords, and you're complaining about character inconsistencies? Yes,
because the original ones were Jungian archetypes that made sense and had a satisfying arc. These ones are absolute nonsense, where a female Jedi just easily beats Luke Skywalker in about 2 minutes.
And Luke Skywalker, like as Mark Hamill, as cringe as he is most of the time in real life, at the time when he was saying, like Luke Skywalker, the most hopeful, optimistic guy in the universe, in the galaxy, going off to try and save his evil father from the evil that had taken over him. I'm just going to try and murder my my nephew.
Oh yeah, it was disgusting. That movie was like, it was just deliberately like, let's take a big dump on everything you love, wasn't it? I remember saying at the time the director should do community service, which I thought was generous. I didn't say a full prison sentence.
Yeah, I think you were going a bit light on him.
You're
there.
right.
You were. I hope you've let go of your liberal ways.
Yeah. Full life sentence.
Far too lefty for me, Nick.
Horrific.
But let's carry on. CNN said, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power delivers spectacle but lacks the dramatic power to rule them all. I really hate all of the cringy headlines where they're trying to incorporate like lines from the films and the books. It just doesn't work.
One review to bind them. All right, mate. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. A handsome prequel that could leave all but the most devoted hobbits feeling more bored than Lord. Ha ha!
Lol.
Got him.
LMAO.
Let's move to the next one. IndieWire saying The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, solid return, if not quite fit for a king. There we go again. There we go again.
Should just be my review of new Lord of the Rings thing. Should just be the.
I would more happily click on that than any of these headlines ever again. But then we move over, and there was a few less of these than I was expecting, but still, we got the Cooming reviews. The ones who absolutely could not contain their excitement. It's so astounding. It's so astounding. It makes the House of the Dragon look amateur. Now, I've not watched House of the Dragon yet, but even from people whose opinions I trust, they've been saying a lot better than we were expecting. Actually a decent enough show for the first 2 episodes. Whereas I doubt that when people whose opinions I trust get their hands on this, it's going to be a similar kind of reaction. And they go on in this article. I love Galadriel the fighter. She's valiant, flawed and haughty, as bloody-minded as she is brilliant, scarred by the horrors of war. If that doesn't sound like much fun, wait till you see what she does to a snow troll, which sounds somewhat disconcerting as a sentence. I don't want to know what she's doing to anybody's snow troll. But if you don't need any more evidence that the people making this show have no idea what it is they're adapting. And if they do, they don't care about it. As always, we keep mentioning this, but it's worth repeating. I have a couple of small reservations, though. They say, I need to make sure I don't seem like I'm just too enthusiastic about this. On occasion, there is a whiff of smell the fart acting, which is perhaps hard to avoid when every other line is a poker-faced aphorism such as, a dog may bark at the moon, but he cannot bring it down. There's that Tolkien poetry coming through right. That's awful. That's awful dialogue. And if that's reflective of the kind of original dialogue they've created for this, this might actually be kind of hilarious to watch. If everybody's trying to take themselves seriously while delivering prequel-level dialogue like that, are they going to go on about sand? Is that where we're going with this? You know, it is coarse, it's rough, and it does get everywhere. And then we've got Forbes as well coming out saying that it's a breathtaking return to Middle-earth and the Lord of the Rings. And so that's just a general overview of some of the reviews that we've got. But I thought I'd do a little test here, which is if we go to the next link, we can see the Rings of Power Rotten Tomatoes score. Are you familiar with the general trend of Rotten Tomatoes scores?
I'm very familiar with them, yes. It's a new place that the cathedral tries to lie to us, but then the audience score puts them right with the actual truth.
It really does, because if we see here, the average tomato meter for whether it's rated fresh or not from critics is 83%. Average audience score is still coming soon, when we'll see how that goes tomorrow. But I have a little bit of a sneaking suspicion that I know where it's going to go. And we can just see where it's going to go. For instance, when we check the Ghostbusters all-female reboot 2016.
I predict Bezos buying Rotten Tomatoes and just fixing
They don't own it already?
review.
Actually, don't Fox own Rotten Tomatoes? So technically Disney own it.
Surely they're not going to allow this series to get like 2% on. Let's see anyway.
We'll see, because we've got Ghostbusters with a rated fresh 73% from critics and a shockingly high, to be honest, 49% from audience. And I can only assume that that's just propped up by reviews from angry feminists who desperately want to defend this masterpiece of cinema.
Yes, because we should be clear, this is the women one.
Yes, the 2016 reboot with all-female Ghostbusters that everybody was just clamouring for.
I found it empowering.
As a strong, independent woman yourself, it's very impressive that you can come out here with your beard and everything. It's very brave of you, Nick.
you.
Or should I say Nikita?
Obviously, I didn't watch it. Did you watch it?
No.
I mean, to paraphrase Larry David, I hate myself, but not that much.
Yeah, one of my friends saw it and said it was so bad that he thought that Chris Hemsworth was left out of a few Marvel films as punishment for starring in it, because he plays in this as basically just a complete mental retard. Because that's all men can be. That's all hot men are, just stupid eye candy. And we've got the Captain Marvel film that came out a few years ago, the feminist empowerment film, 79% critics, 45% audience score. So you can see, actually, as the critics score goes up, the audience score goes down. The more critics love it, the more likely it is to be a big pile of poo.
And what's impressive about that film is no matter how bad it probably is, the actress, when she speaks separately from the film, is much worse.
It's quite an impressive skill, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't... Well, being a middle-aged white man, actually, she doesn't care about your opinion. She made it very clear. And rightfully shows she shouldn't. I, tune Nick out the whole time on these podcasts. And then we've got the classic, the absolute original of this, of Star Wars The Last Jedi, which was really loved by critics, 91%, 42%.
You just reminded me, I joined Rotten Tomatoes to write a bad review of Last Jedi. Specifically, that's how
Doing
angry
your
I was.
part, you're one of the 100,000 plus in there.
I've never done anything like that, but I was just like, that is so bad. Someone has to pay for this. Because no one loves Star Wars more than me. I read the books growing up, had all the figures and everything, my favorite films. And it was so disgusting what they did to it on any level. Didn't work as a film. Even aside from the woke stuff, first time I watched it, I wasn't really aware of that. I was like slightly aware of it, and then I was like, oh yeah, the purple hair and blah blah. But it was just terrible as a film.
Yeah, I mean, I think after I went to go see it, The Guardian calling me a Nazi for not liking it was literally the first step to my red pilling myself.
Right, yeah.
So thank you, The Last Jedi, for that at least.
91%. It's just like you're just reviewing how far. It
are you ready to see the worst one, the last one that we'll look at before we finish? Okay, are we ready? We all knew it was going here. Let's see how much critics loved Cuties. 86% to a 15% audience score.
Yeah. Audience not so keen on pedos. But they just review them based on how far they match the ideology. That's what the percentage is for. You 100% match the ideology. You only 86% match it. That's all it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think Cuties, that 14% was knocked off the critics because I don't think there was any actual, noncery in the film.
Right, it was only implied.
Yeah, it was only implied noncery. They didn't go far enough for the French critics. But audiences weren't a particularly big fan of this. So I'm sensing a bit of a trend. And I guess we'll see tomorrow when the show comes out. But I'm not expecting the trend to break. Not this time.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series we do, this one on A Bridge Too Far, Part 4. If you want to follow what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.